An entire house full of entitled Karens want to tear up the home they're currently renting from, all because they're getting evicted. My husband and I, after 3 years, are finally able to purchase a home. We found the home of our dreams, but it was tenant occupied and their lease was expiring. The homeowner was getting older and wanted to sell the home instead of renting it. The tenants were given an 18-month notice to vacate the premises so he could list the property. He also gave the tenants the option to buy the house from him for $50,000 in monthly payments. The entitled Karens living in the estate said, "We don't want the responsibility of owning and fixing a home. We're just much more comfortable renting." They rented the home from him for 15 years, and they were offered the home at 1/8 the price we paid for it, as well as 1/12 of the value. Well, after 18 months, he listed the property, and we went under contract, giving 4 months until closing. 2 of the 5 roommates left, and the other 3 were a couple as well as their 21-year-old daughter. The inspector came after, giving them a 1-week notice, and they caused nothing but havoc. They trashed the fireplace and the entire home. They stained the floors and put holes in the carpet and the walls, and left the garden hose on so water gets in crawl spaces under the home. It was an absolute mess. But the inspector noted everything. But this is where the fun part begins. The tenants refused to pay their utilities and asked if the homeowner would extend their lease since it was their daughter's childhood home. The homeowner refused and instead showed them the contract as well as the damages. They complained that they should be entitled to be given the home since they rented it for so long, but the homeowner said, "Tough noodles." The tenant couple vacated when the homeowner showed them the eviction documents, but left their 21-year-old daughter behind. She requested that when we purchased the home, if we could be her roommates and put her on the title. We laughed and then recollected on all the damage they did and said no. She blamed us, stating we took her home from her and that it's our fault that she has to leave. I sympathized and said, "We totally understand it was your childhood home, but you had every opportunity to purchase it and you didn't." After a few weeks, 1 month before closing to be exact, the appraiser and the inspector came by and she barricaded herself in the master bedroom. After being given $50 from the homeowner just to bribe her out of the room, she left the home for the day and it was a complete mess. Clothing and trash piled everywhere, pizza boxes stacked to the ceiling, and the stench of rotting food made the inspector have to put on his mask. They finished their job and the homeowner had replaced and repaired everything on the list, totaling to about $52,000 worth of damages, except inside the master bedroom. The week before closing, the last tenant left, and we come to find out she already had another apartment for months, but just wanted to trash the place so we would back out. The homeowner hired professional cleaners, and it took 4 days to clean and sanitize that room alone. We just got the keys and discovered the last tenant had ripped drywall off of the master bathroom, put screws down the garbage disposal, and crushed the garage door opener when the previous homeowner reset the code. And right before this entitled Karen left the house, she left us a note saying she expects her security deposit back. And well, after all the damages she did, you can bet she's not getting a single dime. I think from here on out, anytime someone gets some bad news that they don't like, I'm gonna say tough noodles. This is quite literally every homeowner's worst nightmare. Can you imagine buying the home of your dreams, only to then have a house full of Karens running around and destroying your property? Thank goodness the people who are buying this house did not have to fix it up, and that it all fell on the homeowner themselves. I don't know if they did or not, but I'm sure, and I definitely hope, they hired a lawyer to sue these people for property damage. But thankfully, they have their house, and hopefully they will never have to deal with those entitled Karens ever again. My husband cheated on me and has now been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and to top it all off, his mistress is now pregnant. The title is literally self-explanatory, but for the sake of clarity, here's a little bit of background. My husband is a 38-year-old man, and I'm 34 years old. We've been together for 19 years. We dated for 7, and we've been married for 12. We have 2 young children, and another due in September. My daughter is 10 and my son is 8, and I'm 32 weeks pregnant. Like any other family, we had our share of fortunes and misfortunes. The last couple of years were particularly quite painful for us, as we both lost our loved ones due to COVID-19. He lost his elder brother, and I lost my grandparents. Our struggle started during the grieving process. He berated me for grieving my grandparents while he grieved for his brother. While I understood that unlike unlike his brother, my grandparents were able to live a full life and see loved ones grow, but that didn't make my pain any less. I lost my father when I was very young, and my grandparents were always around to help my mom and us. They were my family. I tried to have a conversation with him, but he just shut me off. He started being distant and quiet at home. I gave him space to grieve, but eventually it started impacting our lives quite intimately, if you know what I mean. This went on for 4 months. I suggested couples therapy to smooth things over between us. I was honestly so tired of initiating one-sided conversations with him. It would mostly be monologues with him merely nodding. Things started getting better between us, and then last September, he told me that he wanted another baby. After a lot of discussion, I gave in and we started trying. Since February, he started being distant again, and every time I tried to comfort him, he would just tell me that it's my hormones talking. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew something was off. I had this feeling that he was just hiding something. On one of the restless and sleepless nights, I saw his phone screen light up at 3 in the morning. He had changed his password, so I couldn't read the entire conversation, but I did see the notification that said, "We're pregnant," with hearts and kisses all over it. I confronted him the next day, and he angrily told me that I was apparently hallucinating and that he would never cheat on me. He hugged me and told me how much he loved me, and even cried that I didn't trust him after all these years. I then asked him who such and such was, such and such being the person I saw in his contacts last night, and he said he didn't know anyone by that name. He just told me that I was overthinking. He offered me his phone to check for messages, and conveniently enough, both the number, the name, and the message were not there. I reached out to one of his colleagues and asked her about the person. His colleague and I have known each other for a while, and our daughters are friends. She not only confirmed that there's a person by that name on his team, but she also told me that my husband has been on leave for a couple of days, and so has the other woman. She is 26 years old and works under him. When I threatened my husband that if he doesn't come clean, I will wreak havoc at his workplace, he finally confessed that he has been seeing this other woman and that she is pregnant with his child. My entire world crashed at that moment. I didn't know what to do and needed time to process things. He apologized, cried some more, and begged me to give him another chance. I asked him to move out and he complied, saying that he will give me some space and time. "Whatever you need, babe," were his exact words. I didn't want to take any rash decisions and wanted to focus on my pregnancy, my kids, and my own well-being. So I delayed any conversation of divorce or legal separation. But every day, I stumbled upon new pieces of information, such as when he convinced me to try and have a baby, all while he was already with that woman. He was spending some quality time with both of us. It honestly makes me sick to my stomach. I also found their chat backups on his email ID, and it is honestly completely filthy. I went no contact with him in April and told him that I needed time. He has been there for all of my doctor's appointments, even though I don't even acknowledge his existence while I'm there, while also being at his mistress's doctor's appointments as well. He said that he messed up and he wants to rectify his mistakes by owning up to it. Currently, he's living with his parents. Last month, my mother-in-law informed me that he has been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. He asked me to forgive him and to live his last days with him, but I can't even bring myself to look him in the face. I asked her to take my kids to see their father, and my daughter told me that the other woman was at daddy's bedside. I was completely furious. Apparently, she goes with him for his appointments as well. I hate her and I hate him. I am pissed, hurt, humiliated, and disgusted. I've been told that at this stage, he won't live long. On one hand, I want to forgive him. After all, he is the father of my children. He has been amazing all of these years, and he was the love of my life. On the other hand, the betrayal, the hurt, the humiliation, the disrespect, and anger is too much for me to handle. My friends and family believe that I should forgive him and let him live his last days in his own house. They feel that given his condition, I shouldn't drag this long because he doesn't have time. I have also been asked to befriend the other woman so that our kids can get to know each other. After all, they are half siblings. They say that I will regret it later if I don't reconcile with my husband right now. now. I am emotionally exhausted, and I'd like any suggestion that would make it easier for me to handle this situation with some semblance of grace. Should I just forgive him? How do I even do that? Should I ensure that my kids have a relationship with the other child? I don't think I can stand him right now, but do you think that my family is right and that I should bring him home? How do I let this go? Because I am honestly not sure whether I really can. What should I do? If I was in your shoes, I would have gotten a lawyer yesterday. Honestly, your husband is a piece of garbage. And yeah, I can kind of see both sides of this. I completely understand where your family's coming from when they're saying, hey, make amends while you got the chance. He's probably not going to live long. But on the other end of it, this guy blew up your family. He completely wrecked your home by going with some chick from his work. That is not your fault. Sure, allow your children to see him, but you are under no obligation to give him comfort when he ripped your comfort away from you. That's my take on it, at least. But first and foremost, I would be lawyering up, because pretty soon it's just going to be you and your kids, and you need to make sure that you have some semblance of a claim on his estate when he passes. I know it's very morbid to think about that kind of stuff, but this is something you definitely need to consider moving forward. So I wish you the best of luck on whether or not you forgive him, because honestly, this is a really heavy situation, and I think worst of all, I just feel bad for you as well as your kids, because they deserve to have a father in their life, and the situation is just really unfair across the board. My neighbor says that he saw my husband cheating, and I am in absolute shock. So to start off, my husband comes home late most of the time. He usually has a lot of meetings. However, his schedule is flexible, so sometimes he'll come home earlier. A couple of days ago, I was out shopping, and when I came home at around 4, he was there. I didn't think anything of it at the moment, so I just spent the rest of the day with him. Yesterday in the evening, my neighbor and I were going for a walk around the neighborhood. While talking, she asked me if I knew, and I didn't know what that meant. I was so confused. So I pressed her further, and she asked if I knew that my husband was cheating on me. My heart quite literally sank at the thought of it, but I didn't believe her. She reassured me and said that being married to a man like him comes with infidelity, and she has been through the same thing. She said that once the initial shock is over, I will come to terms with it. I was so confused because she still hadn't given me any proof of my husband cheating, and I got angry that she was just accusing him of things. She then told me that a couple of days ago at around 11 o'clock, the day I went shopping, my husband brought a girl to our home in his car, and a couple of hours later, the girl left in a different car. She said that from her view, the girl had a similar body type to me and looked at around my age, but she had blonde hair. I was and am in shock. I couldn't continue the walk and I went home. My husband came home shortly after, and I wish I was better at keeping a straight face, but I just couldn't. He repeatedly asked me what was wrong, but I didn't tell him. He said that he will get it out of me eventually. My neighbor has always been so sweet to me, but this morning, after telling my best friends about it, they believe that my neighbor is lying. We have 2 security cameras that show the driveway to our house. The only problem is that my husband has the app on his phone. He is always extremely transparent, and I can go on his phone anytime. I don't check through it. I just search things if my phone is dead and stuff like that. But if he is cheating, he probably wouldn't let me go on his phone. My husband is huge on loyalty, and he is very possessive over me, so I don't understand how he could possibly be cheating on me. When we were out, he never looks at other women. He isn't even friendly to waitresses or anyone like that. He has always said that I am his exact type. He has always been all over me, but I am not going to be one of those delusional wives. Do you think he is cheating? If he is, I will be leaving him no questions asked, but please give me some honest opinions and advice. First and foremost, I wouldn't jump to any conclusions without some kind of definitive evidence. Your neighbor very easily could be lying. I don't believe them for a second without any semblance of proof. So the obvious first step is to go to the camera application and look through the footage. If something is deleted, specifically at the time that this lady's describing, then you know that something suspicious is going on. I think it's completely okay to be upset over this, especially the idea of your husband cheating on you, but I just wouldn't jump to any kind of conclusion without some kind of evidence to back it up. So video footage is obviously the first thing I would look for. Hopefully though, this isn't the case, and hopefully this is just the neighbor being weird, but then again, why else would they bring this up? Why else would they come to you specifically and say, hey, I saw your husband do such and such? Reasonably speaking, I don't think your neighbor would ruin their relationship with you as their neighbor just to try and get between you and your husband. I can't see someone realistically going to you and saying, hey, your husband's cheating on you, without actually meaning it or having some kind of visible proof. So hopefully you can get that visible proof with like footage or something like that, and hopefully you're able to figure this out. Because if he is cheating you, then yeah, you should probably break up with him sooner than later. Should I leave my boyfriend over him lying about deleting his Instagram account? We've been together for a year and a half. For a brief backstory, I come from a past of very terrible relationships, so I have a lot of trust issues that I've been working on. This has put a strain on our relationship at some points because I get really insecure about other women. A few months into our relationship, I noticed that there were some Instagram messages with a girl that he used to be interested in who lives in another state. They weren't bad messages at all, just friendly wishing each other well and commenting on each other's stories every now and then. I got uncomfortable about it because he seemed to try and hide it from me when I saw it. He told me he used to be into her years ago when they lived in the same area, but nothing happened between them except ending up being friends. He said he knew I would be upset, so he panicked and put his phone down out of reflex. I was uncomfortable about it, so he told me he would never message her again. He showed me the rest of his messages, and there wasn't anything bad, just messages with friends. I don't have an Instagram account, and I've expressed to him how I hate social media. He offered to delete his account to prove to me that he really doesn't care about talking to any other women besides me. Fast forward to now, I thought his Instagram had been deleted this whole time. I re-downloaded the app for the first time in forever to look at something random, and I decided to snoop on his account just to see if it was still there. Not only was it there, but I realized that he'd been liking friend photos after I did some more investigating. I then checked on the one girl I saw him messaging last year, and I realized he liked one of her photos in January. This made me really upset. I then confronted him and he apologized and admitted it was wrong to hide that from me. There was one time in January where he told me that he had re-downloaded the app for a work promotion, so I thought that maybe he just got on once or twice after that. I was mainly upset that he liked the picture of the girl that I was so worried about, but after a lot of talking, he was very sorry. He said he didn't think it was a huge deal and that he was just liking stuff on his feed. He considers her a distant friend, so he didn't think it was wrong or that he betrayed me by liking the photo. He didn't want to be open with me about it because he knows how insecure and sensitive I am, and he didn't want to cause any conflict. I let it go, but then a few days later, I had a nagging gut feeling, and I decided to look more into it to see if he's actually been on the app more than just once or twice. Up until this point, I had never gone through his phone or laptop, but I wanted the truth. So I got on his laptop while he was at work and got on Instagram to see if it's already been logged into his laptop. Based on his login history, he's been logged into the app almost every other day for the past 6 months or longer. This made my heart drop because I thought I was going to find messages of him cheating, but thankfully I didn't. There wasn't a single message to another girl except a couple of girlfriends he has that I'm not really worried about. The only other messages were with his guy friends. He also never messaged that girl again like he promised, so that was honestly a relief. I was also very, very upset about the lie, especially because he didn't fess up to being on Instagram this whole time after I thought he only logged in once or twice for work. His reasoning is that he doesn't feel like he has the space to be honest with me about this stuff. He said he just liked logging in while he was bored at work so he could see what his friends were up to. He said that since he knew he wasn't cheating on me in any way, he didn't feel it was wrong to get on and scroll and message some friends every now and then. The thing is, my boyfriend is a really good guy. He is very kind and loving towards me, even though he might not totally understand my trust issues. His ex cheated on him with several coworkers for 2 years straight, so he knows how bad that feeling is. I never actually thought he would cheat on me, but I also never thought he would lie to me too. I understand that I never gave him space to open up about this stuff because he fears I'll get mad. We talked about it and he agreed to be honest and open from this point on, even if it might hurt my feelings. I also told him I would give him the space to tell me these things and to work on not getting upset over other women. I really don't want to control him like that. I really don't know what to do. I want to stay and work on fixing this dynamic between us, but the lying thing shook me to my core. I hate being lied to. I get why he did it, and I don't think he is a cheater, but is it worth giving this relationship another shot? What should I do? This is a rough one because I mean at this point you're treating him like you don't trust him and you've trained him to like hide things and like to hide conflict from you because you're like hypersensitive about all this. So yeah, you've not given him any room to be honest with you in the slightest. It's super unhealthy and it's super restrictive. Like, you say you don't want to be restrictive and you don't want to be that girlfriend, but then you turn around and do the exact thing that you don't want to do. It just seems really counterintuitive overall. And this guy is not cheating on you. Yeah, he probably should have been more honest about having an Instagram account, but scrolling through it just to see what your friends are doing is not bad. And while I do think it's a bad thing for him to like that girl's post, innately, from the outside looking in, it is not a deal breaker in a relationship. I think your own insecurities are honestly getting in the way of you having any kind of relationship right now. And the fact that you don't trust him in the slightest, and you feel the need to go through his phone and his laptop, is proof enough that you're being incredibly controlling in this situation. In my opinion, it seems like you just didn't allow him to have any time to explain things to you because you react so strongly that he's like, okay, it's just not even worth saying anything. Every little thing gets blown out of proportion. That's my take, at least. So I think, if anything, you might need to look inwards first before you start pointing the blame at your boyfriend, who I think is honestly trying his best just to maintain this relationship with you. But what do you think? What would you do if you were in this situation? Leave a comment down below. We would love to hear it. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And the next time you live stream, use the cream of the crop music. Search Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your next stream.